So please, the pro from this side, pro, this side. No, sorry, come. This side, first, second, third. Say, I'm not girati qua. No, devono andare più in là, Antonio, perché è una questione di annunciatore qua che you are the first, the second, girati qua. No, non siamo. Andate a guardare là. Girati qua. Le camisette. Ok. Signorina,
we need complete silence, quiet please. We have to record. Thank you.
Okay, really, we are going to record everything because it will be part as our oratories, as our sports competition, and there will be the same in Turkey for duos. So we need registration, recorded, and absolute silence, please. In this room you can't eat, either drink, and please keep silent. Thank you. Little, please, this way, little, but for reason of, it's okay? It is yours, thank you. You can speak there, you can introduce them. Okay, close to the microphone now when you speak. Good luck. It's okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome to the second traditional forensics tournament. On the right side we have the houses would legalize the use of cannabis. Matej from Slovakia will point out its therapeutical use. Victor from Italy will highlight crime rate reduction related to cannabis liberalization, and industrial usage will be dealt with Ilenia from Spain. Cans will be respectively supported by Andrea from Romania, Marina from Spain, and Cheval from Turkey. The judge will be Ivo from Bulgaria.
Let's begin. The first method.
Good afternoon. My name is Mathieu and I'm the first speaker of the affirmative team. Today's debate is about legalization of cannabis. In this debate, I will talk about rehabilitation by cannabis. In the first part of the speech, I will talk about how useful is cannabis in medicine, and in the second part of my speech, I will talk about unreasonable health concerns regarding use of marijuana, and also about how it could actually replace more dangerous medications. So, one of the reasons to legalize cannabis is that it has plenty of medical uses. Medical cannabis is actually nothing new. For the medical purposes, it was used even 5,000 years ago. Until the beginning of 20th century, it was one of the most used medical substances in the world. So what makes cannabis so useful in medicine? Well, cannabis contains at least two chemicals that researchers think have medical use. THC, which seems to have pain relief properties, and CBD, which seems to impact the brain without the high. Thanks to these chemicals, cannabis can be used to treat multiple diseases and perhaps can offer a cheaper and safer alternative to current medications. For example, an extract from CBD, the chemical in cannabis, can be used to treat epilepsy. A study published by US neurologists proved that this extract from cannabis can reduce epileptic seizures at higher rate than current medications. But it is not the only case when cannabis can be useful. For example, unlike tobacco, it can actually improve lung health and reverse negative effects of smoking, and therefore decrease risk of lung cancer. It can be also used to treat and prevent eye disease called glaucoma, which causes increased pressure within the eyeball and may cause blindness. It could also slow progression of Alzheimer's disease. It can be used to treat lupus. It can help decrease anxiety and even possibly stop cancer from spreading. There is no question that cannabis can have plenty of medical uses, but what about its negative effects? Isn't it too dangerous or addictive or unhealthy to be legalized? Do health risks regarding cannabis really outweigh its benefits? Cannabis has some negative effects on health, but these are extremely irrelevant compared to negative effects of other legal substances. For example, it is impossible to get fatally overdosed by cannabis. Nobody in the history of mankind have ever died because of cannabis overdose. On the other hand, many people die every year because of overdose of alcohol or overdose of legally prescribed drugs. As many as 70,000 people have died in the first decade of 21st century in the European Union because of overdose of legally prescribed drugs. What makes cannabis so much worse than alcohol, all these dangerous medications? Why should it be kept illegal while those drugs are legal? It is almost impossible to die by cannabis use, but it is true that there are certain health risks associated with its use. But the important fact is that all negative effects that cannabis has on adults are just temporary. Perfect example of dangerous medications that could be replaced by cannabis are opioid painkillers. These painkillers kill thousands of people every year. Specifically, in year 2015, these painkillers killed 25,000 people in the United States. More importantly, cannabis can actually replace these dangerous opioid painkillers and become an alternative painkiller which is not only much safer but also more effective. To summarize it, there are many positive effects of cannabis, but too few risks associated with its legalization. Many substances that are more dangerous than cannabis are legal in so many countries. For these reasons, we are convinced that cannabis should be legalized as a safe alternative to current medications. Thank you for your attention.
Good morning, distinguished teacher and dear students. As you know, the topic for our debate is legalization of cannabis. However, we, the negative team, strongly oppose this resolution. I am Andrea, and today, as the first speaker of the opposing team, I will be talking about health damages. Our second speaker, Marina Duran Lopez, will be talking about drug-related crime, while Shevalos, the third member of our team, will be talking about gateway drugs. It is also my responsibility to sum up our team case at the end of the debate. Before presenting our first point, allow me to speak in response to the government's argument on the resolution. The first speaker from the affirmative team has tried to demonstrate that cannabis has some beneficial medicinal qualities and therefore it should be legalized. In our opinion, this is totally unacceptable. Although evidence may show that cannabis has some additional benefits, its use also has harmful side effects, so its legalization is unjustifiable. Take for example Sativex, a mouth spray which contains cannabis extracts used in multiple sclerosis to improve symptoms related to muscle stiffness. According to the information for the patient that we can find in the package label, the side effects that patients can get when taking this medicine are the following: difficulty speaking, blurred vision, problems with memory or having trouble, losing touch with reality, feeling depressed or confused, seeing or hearing things that are not there, that is hallucinations, thoughts of suicide, changes in pulse rate, heart rate or blood pressure, feeling abnormal or drunk, loss of balance or failing over, and many others. It can also affect patients' ability to drive or to use machines, as it may cause them to feel sleepy or dizzy. This impair their judgment and performance of skill tests. As you could see, the side effects of Sativex are multiple and very dangerous. In some situations, this medicine may put patients' lives in risk more than treating their illness. Not to mention the fact that when taken in high doses or for a long period of time, it may causing addiction. So, why should we legalize the use of such a drug as treatment when there are some other alternative painkillers which have less and not such life-threatening side effects as the cannabis-based ones? As I have already mentioned, we are completely against the resolution, and as our first argument refers to health damages, meaning the adverse consequences of cannabis use on the human brain and body. Evidence clearly shows that using cannabis and is derived from marijuana has several health risks. Moreover, today's marijuana is stronger than marijuana from many years ago. Studies show that the average level of tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, which is the main mind-altering component of marijuana, has increased by 300% to 400% over the last few decades. As marijuana containing higher levels of THC is becoming more commonplace, the use of this stronger type of marijuana can contribute to increased health risks. The Drug Abuse Warning Network, a system for monitoring the health impact of drugs, estimated that in 2011 there were nearly 456,000 drug-related emergency department visits in the United States in which marijuana use was mentioned in the medical record. The physical health effects of marijuana use mainly involve the lungs and the heart. Like tobacco smoke, marijuana smoke is a mix of toxic substances. Marijuana smoke irritates the throat and lungs, causing coughing, increased phlegm, build up in the throat, frequent chest problems, and greater risk of lung infections. It also contains many of the same cancer-causing materials as tobacco smoke. Several studies have linked marijuana use to increased risk for mental illnesses, including temporary hallucinations, temporary paranoia, and worsening symptoms in patients with schizophrenia. Marijuana use has also been linked to other mental health problems, such as depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts, among things. The youth are especially vulnerable to the mental health damages of cannabis use because adolescence is a critical time in our life. Having THC in the brain at such a critical time can interfere with brain development and therefore harm brain function for life. It can also increase the risk of triggering a psychotic episode or a mental illness such as schizophrenia. In this respect, I want to read to you a few lines from the story of a recovering marijuana addict so that you could understand better why legalizing cannabis would do nothing but bring more and more people, mostly teenagers, on the verge of death or suicide. During my last 6 months of use, the possible necessity to kill myself always seemed just a week or two away. My plan, while I was at school, was to jump off of a nearby parking garage. At home, I would use my Dutch shotgun to shoot myself in the head. I didn't want to feel what I felt when I wasn't high. Luckily, I always got high before I was ready to actually kill myself. Had I known of the devastating effects weed would have on me, I would have never taken that first hit. I had no idea of the destructive potential of weed. Thank you.
statistics demonstrate that crime has strongly decreased in those countries where cannabis is legal. We are supposed to be living in a free society where it does not matter if cannabis is bad for people or not. The fact is that we are not looking for the fundamental point. Weed is not the problem. I tried to find numbers about being high and committing violence as consequence. Do you want to know what I found? Nothing. That was what I was talking about. Weed has never hurt anyone. Actually, marijuana reduces the likelihood of violent acts during intoxication, and in habitual users, scientists noticed a reduction of aggressivity and violent behavior. That's why we should legalize marijuana. And if you still think that I'm wrong, listen to those numbers. 1 month after the legalization, Colorado State in the USA gave more than $50 million in recreational cannabis sales, and developed the 50% of this amount to build new schools as a law. The number of convicted people reduced to 84% for detention of marijuana, and the police allowing the police to invest their efforts in solving major problems, often related to alcohol and not marijuana. Thinking about the deaths caused by the alcohol and tobacco abuse, the question that spontaneously arises is, why shouldn't weed be legalized if it causes no certified deaths? And why should the tobacco and alcohol be legal if they cause over 8 million deaths and knowledge deaths every year? Probably it's only because we live in a society where prejudice dominates. I have nothing to say.
Hello. I think we have to get campaigns as a good reason. The word of aim, of course, against marijuana. Marijuana is a drug which damages people, social, medical, or political. The legal position of marijuana will represent a crime because it can alter the world. Of course, I think marijuana mustn't be legal as it is counter to meet it the health of millions of people over the world. I think people can lose freedom if government have got the responsibility to respect individual freedom.
Hi, my name is Ilenia, and I am going to talk about industrial use of cannabis. Hemp and industry. Some facts about hemp. There are over 25,000 non-users for hemp. The healthier compression of hemp fibers can create building materials superior to wood in strength, quality, and cost. Hemp fabric is softer, warmer, more water resistant, and more durable than cotton. Hemp fabric also uses less chemicals to produce. Industrial uses of hemp in China date as far back as 10,000 years. Industrial hemp is produced in many countries around the world. Major producers include Canada, France, and China. It is one of the fastest growing biomasses now and one of the early domesticated plants now. Hemp and environment. Deforestation is considered by many to be one of the most serious and dangerous practices in the world today. We are destroying the very source of oxide and biodiversity. Hemp produces 4 times the raw material than trees for paper making. Hemp can be planted between 1 to 3 times a season, depending on location, and can be recycled up to 10 times. Compact to 3 or 4 for wool pulp paper. The same fiber products that the hemp harvest produce also provide raw materials for a host of Products such as paper, textile, biodegradable plastics, construction, health food, and fuel. Biodiesel fuel emits 80% less carbon dioxide and nearly 100% sulfur dioxide. Hemp paper can be recycled up to 7 times. Wood paper can be recycled 4 times. Hemp fuel do not destroy the ozone layer or contribute to global warming. Hemp fuel burns clean, they do not catch the acid rain. Hemp fuel is 10 times less toxic than salt and has biodegradable sugar. Hemp and health. Hemp oil is the highest source of essential omega-3 and 6 fatty acids, among other things. Help control cholesterol, arterial blockade, and the immune system. Common non-medicinal uses of hemp include nausea and vomiting, multiple sclerosis, muscle spasm disorders, spinal cord injuries, Crohn's disease, Alzheimer's disease, Tourette syndrome, digestive disorder, glaucoma, asthma, and neurodegenerative disorders. A crop for the future, with modern farming in big trouble, farmers hide behind pay not to cultivate their land, and food mountain harvest in developed countries. 1 million of people go hungry in developed countries. Hemp represents a lifeline, a crop for rural and younger pro areas of particular value. It's versatile and organic natural. A face frequent via cold cloth, house, and thin themselves from one hemp field. So why not?
I see your point, Yelenia. Cannabis might have some uses in the industry, but there are many other materials, such as cotton, flax, and hemp can be used in the same way without the risk of cannabis. My point against the legalization of cannabis is its status as a gateway drug. A gateway drug is a drug such as cannabis that is believed by some people to lead to the use of more harmful drugs, as heroin or cocaine. Even if cannabis itself causes minimal harm, it's a dangerous substance because it leads to the use of harder drugs like heroin, LSD, and cocaine. Statistics cannot be ignored as they are part and parcel of the society that we live in. Many people first considered taking other drugs after having smoked cannabis. The idea of taking other drugs seems less threatening after having experimented with cannabis. This is because of the acceptance of drug in pop culture. A major study has found smoking cannabis daily sets users up for a lifetime of multiple drug use. Weekly cannabis users are 2 to 3 times more likely to take other drugs, such as amphetamines, ecstasy, and cocaine than occasional users. Daily cannabis smokers prove 6 times more likely than occasional users to start smoking cigarettes. And this is what Dr. Wendy Swift from the Drug and Alcohol Research Center calls the reverse gateway. People say drug use always starts with tobacco, but in this study some starts with cannabis and then move to tobacco. A study among 2,000 Victorian high school students provides further evidence that cannabis is a gateway drug that encourages users to experiment with other drugs, both legal and illicit. It builds on a 2007 study of the same students that identified cannabis as the drug for life's future losers. If adolescents used it heavily, as they were even more likely to suffer poor mental health than teenage binge drinkers. So to conclude, some studies show that cannabis might be considered a gateway drug, and cannabis users are likely to take other drugs, and cannabis shouldn't be legalized. So ladies and gentlemen, we as members of the opposition have talked about health damages, drug-related crime, and gateway drug. We have shown that the use of cannabis has dangerous side effects and leads to medically and socially harmful outcomes. We have also brought important proof to demonstrate that legalization will lead to users moving to harder drugs like heroin and cocaine, which ultimately brings about an increase in social ills. Moreover, the crime rate will inevitably rise, giving criminals a legitimate base from which to continue their activities. From the opposition's point of view, we consider that there are no consistent reasons for cannabis to be legalized. In this respect, we managed to construct our own argumentation which challenged the government's case during the debate. We believe that the opposing arguments and proofs were more relevant in the context of the debate than those presented by the government. Thank you for your attention.
So thank you for this debate. You all did very good. I liked it. And before I give you the feedback, I'm just going to say a few words about the topic. So yeah, the legalization of cannabis is one of the most discussed issues of modern society in recent years. And it's very controversial. A lot of countries believe that it's good, a lot of countries believe that it's bad. That's why it's such a controversial subject. Now, I like that you used some of the best arguments that could be found. I would have liked to see if someone would have talked about actual street dealing, because on the streets people can give you cannabis mixed with other things. That would have been a nice argument to add, because it's one of the biggest dangers in countries where it's illegal. Dealers are one of the biggest dangers of illegal marijuana, and in places where it's legal, there's a lower risk that you'll get a mixed product. I like that you talked about smoking. I would have liked to see this team talk about edibles, like ingesting marijuana by eating. That would have been a nice argument, because it does not hurt the lungs. Still, the debate concerning legalization continues, and it continues all over the world. And I'm not here to say who is right. I'm here to say who is more convincing, and that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to talk about each and every speaker, what you did right, what you did wrong. So, the first speaker of the affirmative team, I really have nothing bad to say about you. You did very good, you were very structured. I understood everything that you said, so good job. And the same goes for the first speaker of the negative team. Very good structure, good argument, I'm impressed. When it comes to your second speaker, your speech was also very nice, but it was also kind of short. You should always try to utilize your 5 minutes of speaking. Which also goes for your second speaker. Your speech was very short. You need to write something longer, because your argument was way too short for it to be even considered a speech. For your third speaker, I really liked your argument. It was very creative. I like the fact that you talked about industrial hemp use, because not a lot of people would think about that. So good job to you too. And your third speaker also very good, considering it a gateway drug and speaking about how after the transition there could be a rising crime. That was very clever of you, so good job to you too. As a whole, it's a hard decision to decide who did better. But in the end, I'm going to have to go with the affirmative team. So, congratulations to you. Mainly because your second speech was almost non-existent. That was your biggest problem. And they just had more arguments, better structure, and just utilized their time better. So, you still did great. Don't give up. Keep doing debates, because they're very useful. And thank you everyone for this wonderful experience with you.
Photo all together. The front. Why didn't you wear front t-shirt? I told you, I gave you front t-shirt and your salad. So, come here. one. Ready, the second group, please. Yes, ready. Okay. Okay, you can go. And the second group can come quickly. Mr. Alex. Qui Alex. Bravo. Raccogli i vecchi. Metti 9. Which way però passa dopo, no adesso. Non fa niente, non fa niente. Ma l'abbiamo già fatto.
The House of Commons is represented by Natalia from Romania, who will support the hypothetical group, by Isabel from Spain, that will introduce religious issues, and by Sue from Slovakia, that will point out the legal matters. Pros will be respectively supported by Alek from Bulgaria, Onur from Turkey, and Juan from Spain. The judge of this debate will be Piero from Italy.
Hello everyone. As we know, the topic of this debate is euthanasia, a very complex and controversial issue, with medical, moral, religious and legal implications. According to the American Heritage Dictionary, euthanasia is the act or practice of ending the life of a person or an animal having a terminal illness or a medical condition that causes suffering perceived as incompatible with an acceptable quality of life. It's by lethal injection or the suspension of certain medical treatments.
This definition reflects the two main aspects of euthanasia, which can be classified as passive euthanasia, meaning the withholding of common treatments, such as antibiotics, and active euthanasia, involving the use of lethal substances or forces, such as administering an overdose of sedatives. Euthanasia is sometimes used interchangeably with assisted suicide, which means proving someone with medication or information knowing that the person intends to commit suicide. The only difference between the two is which person performs the final act that kills the patient. When a doctor is the one who assists, such as prescribing a dose of medication which can be deadly, it is known as physician-assisted suicide. As the opposing team, we strongly reject the legalization of euthanasia, as we consider that is wrong in principle and dangerous in practice. Our arguments against the present resolution are the Hippocratic Oath, religious issues, and legal matters concerning this topic. Our first argument is based on the most famous text in Western medicine, the Hippocratic Oath, which represents a code of professional and personal conduct for doctors. Most scholars agree that the Hippocratic Oath was written about 2,500 years ago and is commonly attributed to the Greek philosopher and physician Hippocrates. The classical Hippocratic Oath includes an introduction in which physicians swear by Apollo and other Greek gods. It can be summarized as a solemn promise of solidarity with other physicians to do good and avoid evil, not to assist suicide or abortion, not to seduce patients, and maintain confidentiality. Nowadays, the original Hippocratic Oath is not longer used, but almost all students graduating medical school swear to a modernized version of it. This more recent codes of ethics use many of its basic principles and are updated to fit with new medical practices. The Hippocratic Oath is perhaps best known by the general public as the tenet. First, do no harm. A phrase that summarizes the moral aim of the oath, although it does not appear in the document itself. To most of us, ending a person's life can be viewed as the greatest harm. And in this respect, the classical version of the oath states, and I quote, "I will not give a lethal drug to anyone if I'm asked, nor will I advise such a plan." Therefore, it is clearly evident that using the physician's knowledge to end a patient's life is not in accordance either with the Hippocratic Oath or the spirit of the Hippocratic tradition. Legalizing euthanasia would violate a fundamental principle in medical ethics, namely the obligation to respect human life. As the opposing team, we believe that contributing to a patient's death is contrary to the very nature and purpose of the medical profession. Doctors are the people we turn to when we are sick, when we are in pain, and we are looked to for guidance about our health. We regard them as someone who can cure us, ease our pain, and save our lives. But what do the physicians themselves think about this topic? The majority of doctors in the USA, for example, are opposed to euthanasia. The National Survey of 2,000 practicing physicians carried out in 2008, researchers found that 68% objected to the use of euthanasia on either religious or non-religious grounds. The opposition to euthanasia is the strongest among doctors who would work most closely with dying patients and are familiar with treatments available. In another survey of over 3,000 oncologists carried out in 2000, researchers found that 93% were against the use of euthanasia for a terminally ill patient with unremitting pain. In conclusion, in this age of modern challenges, the spirit of the Hippocratic Oath is as relevant as ever. The guiding principle of medical ethics is to do no harm, and therefore a physician must not be involved in deliberately harming the patient. Otherwise, the medical profession will lose a great deal of trust. Thank you very much.
Hello? Well, I see your point. But do you know what exactly euthanasia is? It comes from the Greek word that means good death. Now, euthanasia is the practice of initially killing a patient, ending a life, in order to relieve huge amounts of pain and suffering. Now, It can be described as the
painless killing
of a person that is suffering from irreversible disease or in a coma. So the Hippocratic Oath talks about do no harm. Yes, we all know that. It's repeated again and again in all the debates. But if we allow our patients that are terminally ill to suffer unnecessarily, then we are doing them more harm than if we let them die peacefully. Yes. If we are drawing out medical treatment and placing a higher financial burden on their family, we are doing the family harm as well. So they're going to lose their loved ones either way. Now, death comes sooner or later, and if you know you're going to die in 3 months because the doctors told you so, is it better to live these 3 months knowing that you're going to die, the amount of stress on you every day, or is it better if you have a peaceful death? I have a personal example to tell because my uncle's father had brain cancer, and in Bulgaria euthanasia is not legal, and the doctors told him, you have 3 months to live, I'm sorry, we can't do anything about it. So he lived those 3 months in constant suffering, and he knew the date of his death, and what that can do to a person is really bad. So my point is euthanasia should be legal. Not to mention all the horrible things that a patient goes through. It can strip a person out of their dignity. When all options run out, a person should be able to die a peaceful death. So I wouldn't want to watch any loved ones of mine die or not die or live in this constant pain again. Otherwise, they could. On a number of occasions, the Hippocratic Oath's tenets have been changed and modified because of the modern society we live in. And references to women not studying medicine or doctors not being able to break the skin have been removed. So the much quoted reference do no harm also needs an explanation. Does not doing harm mean that we should prolong a life? That doing no harm actually means that we should help the patient have a peaceful death. Today's most graduating medical school students swear to some form of the oath, usually a modernized version. Indeed, oath taking in recent decades has risen to near uniformity, with just 24% of the US medical schools administering the oath in 1921 to nearly 100% today. Yet, paradoxically, even as the modern oath's use has burgeoned, its content has tacked away from the classical oath's basic tenets. According to a 1993 survey of 150 US and Canadian medical schools, for example, only 14% of modern oaths prohibit euthanasia. And we all live in those modern times. In most cases, people look at the Hippocratic Oath's vow to do no harm too literally. They don't look between the lines because they don't want to accept that do no harm doesn't always have to mean the patient's life and can also refer to the overall well-being of said patient. At the time of Hippocrates, there was no prohibition against physician-assisted suicide. So in mainstream Greek medicine, neither the oath nor classical tradition provides a compelling ethical or professional prohibition of physician-assisted suicide. Thank you.
to imagine. And so to have a special love is regulated. That does depend on the quality of a particular leaf than a leaf. Violet than a special love and genetic and is one of leaf and is full of fun and sweet.
I see your point, Isabel. You say that euthanasia is a sin in many religions as it is considered as suicide. My argument starts here. Euthanasia and moral issues. Do you think God really wants us to suffer for the rest of our lives? When the question comes up, is euthanasia right? I say yes. If a patient is terminally ill and is going to die anyways, then I think that it's okay for them to go ahead to end their lives. The patient might be suffering for a long time. Most people don't want to suffer, so they choose to take their own lives instead. Some people see a lifespan in a hospital bed in constant pain as a life not worth living. I personally wouldn't want that. It would be awful to just laying there doing nothing, just waiting for the day you finally die. So some patients may decide that if that is the way they are going to spend the rest of their lives, then just dying is so much better. Generally, people want to die in peace, without pain. Euthanasia may allow them to die peacefully before they have to go to terrible pain. Also, when a person is being kept alive only by machines, I think that taking them off the life support and letting them die is the right thing to do. Because these people usually aren't in a state of say what they want to die or not. This is the most controversial type of euthanasia. Some people have living wills that say rather or not if they want to be kept alive by machines. When a person doesn't have a living will and they can't communicate what they want to do, then it's left up to the family to decide if they keep that person alive. If a person is still living only because of a machine, then they're pretty much already dead. I think it's only right to let them go ahead and leave this world. I wasn't finished, sorry. Today's hospitals are overcrowded and have too many patients. Some argue that they should let those die that do not have a chance of living on. In that way, there could be more room for the other patients that can be cured. To sum up, everyone has a right to decide when their life should end. It's a humane way to relieve patients who are in extreme pain. It spares the family from further financial expenditures due to prolonged and unproductive treatment. It prevents the overuse of drugs in hospital on people with whom the medications no longer have any effects. It frees up funds for other people who require medicinal treatment. So what's your opinion now? Should euthanasia be legal?
So, we all love to help others and that's alright. We see a boy that fell down on the street and what do? We help him to stand up back again and cheer him up so he doesn't cry. People study medicine because they want to help people and cure sick. The doctors and the medical science should help the living, of course, and not to let them enter the realm of death. By allowing euthanasia, we would also give the doctors the right to kill. Now I know you're thinking that they would just end someone else's suffering, but no one should ever have the right to kill someone. So while by every moral means, euthanasia should be used to remove the suffering, doctors must never kill their patients. I also disagree with the point when the people want it. When sometimes people think they have no reason to live, so they don't want to continue anymore, they would do anything to remove their suffering. Euthanasia denies skilled people to do what they could possibly do. Their hopes, wishes, goals, everything will be gone in just a moment. The Australian film called The Water Divider was inspired by a true story of an Australian farmer who traveled to Turkey after the World War I to discover the trails of his long-lost sons. At the end of the movie, the farmer finds his older son that is still alive but his younger son wasn't. Um, uh, the younger son dies after being shot by his own brother. He was bleeding painfully for hours and finally begged his older brother to shoot him. In the Netherlands, in 2002, the euthanasia passed a law legalizing euthanasia, including physician-assisted suicide. Now, they oppose the legalization of euthanasia and recommend other countries to not go that way. Why? Because of the rapid acceleration of euthanasia in the last 5 years. The number doubles to 5,000 a year. It's not a rare event. Euthanasia has been used there for less serious reasons than the ones for which it was first sold to the public. For example, anxiety, autism, or even diabetes. Human life has an intrinsic value. However, reduced out of condition, we have a radical dignity from our first breath to our last. And it's also the base of our human rights, of our qualities. It's the reason why we protect even the hopeless. Legalizing euthanasia would create two classes of citizens. Those whose lives are invulnerable, most of us, and those whose lives can be taken, the ill, disabled, some of us. I think the purpose of our lives is to protect the innocent and vulnerable. And that's why I think euthanasia should be prohibited and never used again. People should not end their lives just because they're out of hope. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, pros and cons of this very hot topic. Oh,
So I'm going to talk about euthanasia, the legal matters too, and I'm going to tell a little story about that. I believe there is no reason why euthanasia can be controlled by proper regulation, but even if regulation won't deal with people who want to implement euthanasia for mad motives. This is a little different from the position with any crime. Law prevents murder, but don't stop bad people from committing murders. Nonetheless, people worry about whatever regulations are put into place, they won't stop persons, particularly vulnerable ones, being pressured to choose the death when they would rather life from a few more weeks. Some rules are better than none. It's hard to think is that creating a structure to regulate euthanasia will have a worse result than not having a regulation at all. This argument goes that science euthanasia will continue to take a place, even though it's illegal, though surely to better place and make it legal and regulate to us to minimize amounts. However, vulnerable persons need the better protected than they are present if they were procedures and rules and they followed by euthanasia. For euthanasia. Indeed, a person who feared that were under pressure to decide in favor of euthanasia will be able to gain and help and support by initiating the former procedures involved in regulated euthanasia. Something what they can do now. What would regulation look like? For safeguard to be meaningful and effective, they involve investigation of errors of patient side, his family dynamics, and the final impression of his death, along with other obvious things such as the patient's medical condition and likely the course of the disease, in order to ensure the requests are properly considered by the patient and the family and the authorities. Regulation needs to be a time period reconsideration. Proper regulation must also make sure the patient was received a good palliative care before any request for euthanasia considered. Although the procedure outline about the time consuming and spacing that does do mean they are impractical. Now I'm going to tell a little story about euthanasia, about Ramon San Pedro. Took almost 30 years to lack it in his body, providing cover of his family. His only window to the world is the room by the sea, which both traveled and they suffered the accident and the interruption to you. At the age of 25 years, she suffered an accident to dive headfirst into the water from a rock, with him quadriplegic and bedridden for the rest of his life. Since his only desire was to end his life, making acts of assisted suicide, because only then would we fear again. Indeed, suicide was illegal in Spain and the most country around the world, which must fight against the dominant administration and the Spanish Church he stood. The story of Ramon San Pedro has significant impact in Spain and triggered controversial debate in Tunisia. The trial for the legalization of euthanasia was held in 1993 and was revived of the media interest. Ramon took his own life in 1998 with the help of a friend. In 2004, Alejandro Armenábar took the cinema story of Ramon with the film The Suicide, starring Javier Bardem, who gave still life to Ramon San Pedro and Belén Rueda. The film was praised by audiences and critics and received several awards, including the Academy Award for the Best Foreign Language Film and Goya Award 14. But we cannot forget it as a film based on real events.
Okay, thank you very much. Pros and cons of this very hot topic, euthanasia or euthanasia. So practically, I want to start saying that both teams were very convincing by their part, pros and cons. But actually, one team that later on I will declare was more convincing by one fact. Considering the fact that euthanasia, by definition in the dictionary, is not death or actually a murder of this human being, but it is considered as a peaceful and harmful way to leave this planet. And in fact, death etymologically is not considered as a murder, but it is a passage, to pass to a new dimension, to a new space, that in the same Christianity, that in the religious facts that we see in the cons, has been considered as a murder or suicide. Mainstream medicine anyways, that I'm very happy that the pros of euthanasia have considered, has in these last decades been formulating what we call hyperdeadly diseases. These diseases are formed by the abuse and normally usage that doctors do of these very unbearable lives of these patients that are not able to continue anyway in their normal health state, giving them obviously false witness of the possibility to go back in their normal life. But anyways, in the cons side, I'm happy that they considered the fact that that euthanasia anyways is a possibility and is a way that these people may have a right to remain in life and to not give away their presence in this in the world. By the other hand, on the cons side, I'm happy that they also considered that in the ancient times, in ancient Christianity or in ancient religion traditions, euthanasia was practiced because of obvious fact, because of these human beings being suffering for these endless terming diseases, and because of all these matters that just can't make their life anyway in a helpful state. But I'm just not happy in one fact, because the pro team didn't highlight that some states are in favor of abortion. That's the suppression of a life that a human being has not asked, because as we know what abortion is, but the same state is not in favor of euthanasia, because euthanasia by itself is the possibility and the request in a direct or indirect way of the person to take an end of his life, because obviously this disease or these diseases have become unbearable and not curable anyways. So at the end of all these considerations, the team that was more convincing anyways, even though I understand both of them, and I'm personally not in favor or in disfavor of euthanasia, but in the complex, the winners are pros of euthanasia.
Thank you. Can we take a photo? Very good. Go. If you want a photo coordinators with euthanasia, please. He is coming to Piero, thanks to Piero, who will surely go to Turkey for duo. Okay? And I want to thank him especially because he will be our interpreter on the Erasmus Plus Day, and he will be able to give a summary for all of you in a few words of what we are going to do, in order not to take the day boring. Okay? Thank you. Now we are going to the beach. If someone wants to take a bath, he can. We will have a pizza, a drink, and chips fries, French fries. And you know the price is just €8. I asked the teachers and the coordinators to gather money so that we do it quickly. And we are perfectly on time. So I suppose that we are coming back here around 3:15 and have the last two debates. After then, you will be free, because after the third and the fourth debate, Mr. Ivo will give us just a few explanations about duo's performance in Turkey, and then all students will be free. And you can spend your evening, your afternoon together like you want, having a rest, dancing, chatting, whatever you want, having a shower, whatever you want. And then we will see tomorrow morning at 7:45 for our first trip. Thank you.
Ora siamo tutti insieme.
Ok, gli studenti italiani accompagnino a piedi, che vengono anche loro, i loro compagni al Miramare. Dove? Sì, chi ha la macchina mangiando tutto quello. Ok, a piedi, iniziate ad incamminarvi. Ok? Guarda con noi. Non te ne mandare.